Hello, this is Conquering History Games, and today I am going to re-demonstrate how to avoid the American Civil War in Kaiserreich. This is current information as of patch alpha 0.4.8 to Russia with love. So you just go in, of course, and you start a game as the United States. This is actually a pretty straightforward guide, but it is tricky if you don't already know how to do it. In the Kaiserreich world in 1936, Herbert Hoover is still the President of the United States, and it is an election year. You actually cannot take any national focuses yet, not even the ones saying the 1936 election, until you get to September. And so right now we're just going to jump ahead to September and see what happens. I just want to briefly, though, talk about the events that you're going to see on the way to the Day in September event, which is the important one as far as avoiding the Civil War. You're going to get the Vice President Curtis Recovers event, which will always pop up. So he is very important to avoiding the American Civil War. So he is always going to make it. So don't worry about that. I also have here an example event, World Premiere of Modern Times. It costs you some political power. Until you get to the A Day in September one, it pretty much does not matter which ones that you pick. Some will give you political power, some will lose it. They do not actually matter when it comes to avoiding the American Civil War. Sometime in December, you will get this event, A Day in September. So this is very important for avoiding the Civil War. Well, everything that I'm going to show you is. This is a very condensed version of how to do that. Essentially, the military could step in and cancel the election, and if you do, you will open up General MacArthur's focus tree here. However, to avoid the Civil War, you kind of don't need a military junta to take over, so we're going to click the elections must go ahead, and you're going to lose 100 political power. After this, you will get the 1936 election bypassed, but you cannot actually pick any of these focuses yet. You can only pick one of these four men after the election happens. On the 5th of November, coincidence? I think not, that you will get the 1936 U.S. presidential election event pop up, and here is where you choose which president you want. Obviously, if you pick Reed, you open his focus tree. If you pick Long, you open up his focus tree, etc., etc. In order to avoid the Civil War, you have to pick Charles Curtis, and they've actually made this a little easier for first-time players. Because here, over the fair deal branch, which can only be opened if you prevent the Civil War, it says Charles Curtis has managed to prevent a Civil War from breaking out. So we are going to pick him, but that is not enough to actually avoid the Civil War. There's some more steps to it. Now, it's a few days after the election. Both America First and the CSA are going to protest the election results, so you're going to be losing political power. In the meantime, I've just started on one of the national focuses because these are the only ones that you have available to you. First day of the new year, the New Year's Day strike will happen, and it is going to cripple your factory output for about half of the year. Long is also going to rally, which is going to hurt your factory output some more. Now, here is the first of several important decisions you have to make. The first is dealing with the Reed strike. You can either choose to negotiate, or you can choose that negotiations with Reed are pointless. I just want to point out that here, your final focus on the President Curtis branch of your focus tree involves agreeing to either some or all of Reed's demands. Well, if you're going to hear those demands, you have to negotiate with him first. After you sit down with Reed, Huey Long is going to demand that he be a part of the negotiations. Reed and Long absolutely hate each other, although there certainly could be an argument made that they both are trying to help the same class of people. However, he has no business there, and this will cost you 100 political power. Well, it will either way, but he has no business there because all he's going to do is start a fight and the Civil War will break out. So then Reed is going to give you his demands, including a minimum wage and a 40-hour work week. If you looked at this compromise with Reed focus, you may be led to believe that you can agree to all of his demands and avoid the Civil War, but that's not true. You have to only implement some of his reforms, and it'll cost you less political power too. And the Commune of France will like you a little more, as well as the United Mexican States. But the point is, it's about compromise. You're trying to juggle all of these different factions in the United States and avoid war from breaking out. So only implement some of his reforms. Long's going to protest these reforms, so you could give in to him, or you could just assure him. So you're just going to give him some assurances. You're trying to juggle the two. Say you're going to do something for him later. And then here is the crucial, technically not the last decision, but it's basically the last decision you have to make. General MacArthur, yeah, this guy, he's going to propose to assassinate Huey Long. So, of course, you have to do it. A few days after that, on January 20th, actually, so it should be Inauguration Day, there will be an assassination attempt on Huey Long. You can choose if he survives or not. I'm not sure why you would choose for him to survive. So Huey Long will be dead. And as you can see right now, you're at almost minus 300 political power. And then after this, as you can see, it says this is awful, but at least you won't be fighting a civil war. You're going to be at almost minus 700. So that's going to put you into disaster range, which should be popping up shortly. Except that you get the peace at last event pop up. You remove the political crisis, and you get 600 political power, as well as the Civil War avoided bonus for your consumer goods factories. Though you are going to keep the effects of the Southern Rally and the New Year's strike. But you now can begin to go down the fair deal branch of the national focus tree. This is the only way that you could open it as of patch 0.4.8. So one more thing that I want to go over before ending the video is I want to be clear. When I first made this video about 2 months ago, I found out afterwards that this has had to create a change in the multiplayer meta. So if you're playing multiplayer Kaiserreich with anybody, and you're playing as the United States, you really need to confirm before you start if you are allowed to avoid the Civil War. Because I know there's some people who say that it makes the United States far too strong, and so it's against the rules to avoid the Civil War. But as you can see here, we're taking the first focus. So just keep that in mind. I hope that this guide was helpful for you, particularly if you are somebody who's new to Kaiserreich. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more guides like this, and drop a comment below if you have any questions that you feel were not answered here, and I'll do my best to answer them as soon as possible. You have a great day.